Samantha had been single for quite some time. After countless failed relationships, she finally decided to give online dating a shot. Her friends had been encouraging her for months, telling her that she could find the perfect match through an app. After a few awkward exchanges with people who clearly weren't her type, she matched with someone named Ethan. He was everything she had been hoping for: handsome, funny, and kind. They hit it off right away. For weeks, they exchanged messages. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, and soon they began video chatting every evening. Ethan was tall, with dark brown hair and a charming smile that seemed genuine. He was thoughtful, always asking about her day, and Samantha felt like she had finally found someone who truly cared. As time went on, Samantha grew more comfortable with Ethan, and the topic of meeting in person came up. He suggested a quiet, cozy restaurant in a part of town Samantha wasn't too familiar with. Although she had some initial reservations, she pushed them aside. He seemed like a great guy, and after weeks of talking, she was eager to meet him face to face. On the day of their date, Samantha felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She dressed in her favorite outfit, something simple but classy. When she arrived at the restaurant, Ethan was already seated, smiling at her as she approached. He was just as handsome in person as he was online, maybe even more so. But as the date progressed, little things began to make Samantha uneasy. Ethan was overly charming, almost too perfect. He would brush off questions about his personal life, giving vague answers whenever Samantha asked about his job or family. He was polite to the waiter, but in a way that seemed forced. It was subtle, but there was a shift in his demeanor that made Samantha uncomfortable. As the date ended, Ethan insisted on walking Samantha to her car, which was parked in a dimly lit, quiet parking lot behind the restaurant. She felt a slight pang of worry, but again, brushed it aside. As they approached her car, Ethan's grip on her arm tightened slightly. His once charming smile disappeared, replaced with a cold, blank expression. He leaned in closer and whispered, "We're not done yet." Samantha's heart raced, fear gripping her as she realized something was very wrong. She tried to laugh it off, but Ethan didn't let go. In a split second, she yanked her arm free, jumped into her car, and locked the doors. As she sped away, Ethan stood there, watching her leave, his eyes never leaving her. Shaken by the experience, Samantha did some digging online, trying to find more information about Ethan. What she found horrified her. Ethan wasn't his real name. In fact, several women had gone missing after meeting a man matching his description through online dating apps. Samantha had narrowly escaped being his next victim. That night still haunts her, and she's never been able to shake the feeling that she came dangerously close to a terrible fate. Jake had always been a hopeless romantic. For years, he had struggled to find someone who truly clicked with him. His friends had all settled down, but Jake was still searching for the right person. Eventually, he decided to give online dating a try, hoping that his luck would change. One evening, as he was scrolling through profiles, he came across Emily. She was beautiful, with flowing blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes. Her photos showed her in various exciting places: skiing in the mountains, lounging on a beach, and even hiking through the forest. Her bio was filled with everything Jake loved: books, adventure, and meaningful conversations. He felt like he had finally found someone who shared his passions. Jake sent her a message, and to his surprise, she responded almost instantly. Their conversations were effortless, and within days, they were chatting regularly. Emily always seemed to say the right thing, making Jake laugh and feel understood. The more they talked, the more he found himself falling for her. It wasn't long before he began imagining a future together. After a few weeks of talking online, Emily suggested that they meet up. Jake was thrilled, but every time they made plans, something would come up. One day, Emily had a family emergency. The next, she wasn't feeling well. Jake, being understanding, didn't push it, but he couldn't help but feel disappointed. Then, out of nowhere, Emily sent him a panicked message. She claimed she was in trouble. According to her, she had gotten into some legal trouble while traveling and needed money to cover a lawyer. She said she trusted Jake, and he was the only one she could turn to. Despite the red flags, Jake was blinded by his feelings. Without hesitation, he sent her the money she asked for. Days passed, and Jake didn't hear from Emily. Her profile disappeared from the app, and her phone number was no longer in service. Panic set in as Jake realized he had been scammed, but it didn't end there. A week later, his bank account was hacked, and his personal information had been stolen. The woman he thought he was falling for had orchestrated the entire thing. Jake was devastated, not only by the loss of money, but by the betrayal of trust. He had been emotionally manipulated and financially ruined. To this day, he warns others to be cautious of the perfect profile, because sometimes it's all just a carefully constructed lie. Isabella had always been cautious when it came to online dating. She had heard all the horror stories, but after a string of bad in-person dates, she decided to give it a try. After all, how bad could it be? She matched with a guy named Chris. He seemed normal, funny, charming, and easy to talk to. They shared many common interests, from movies to travel, and after a few weeks of chatting, Isabella felt comfortable enough to meet him in person. They agreed to meet at a popular bar in town. It was a casual, public place, which made Isabella feel safe. The night started off well. Chris was just as charming in person as he had been online. They laughed, shared stories, and the evening felt lighthearted. But as the night wore on, Chris began to ask Isabella some unusual questions. He asked about her living situation, if she lived alone, if she had family nearby. The questions felt off, but Isabella chalked it up to curiosity. After the date, Chris walked Isabella to her car, but something about his behavior began to make her uneasy. His once easygoing demeanor shifted slightly. His smile became forced, and his body language stiffened. Still, Isabella thanked him for the night and drove home, thinking it had just been an awkward end to an otherwise good date. The next few days were quiet. Chris hadn't reached out, and Isabella assumed he wasn't interested anymore. But then, strange things began happening. She started hearing footsteps outside her apartment late at night, the faint sound of someone whispering. At first, she thought it was just her imagination playing tricks on her, but the noises persisted. Each night, they grew louder. One night, Isabella woke up to the sound of her front door creaking open. Her heart raced as she realized someone had broken into her apartment. She grabbed her phone and called the police, terrified that whoever it was might still be inside. The police arrived, but the intruder was already gone. However, they found something that made Isabella's blood run cold. Footage from the security cameras outside her building showed Chris lurking near her apartment for several nights. He had been stalking her ever since their date, waiting, watching, planning. Isabella packed her bags and moved to a new city within days. She changed her phone number, deleted her online profiles, and never looked back. To this day, the thought of Chris sends chills down her spine, and she can't shake the feeling that he might find her again one day. Online dating can be thrilling, but it's easy to forget the hidden dangers lurking behind a screen. These stories remind us that not everyone is who they say they are, and sometimes, trusting a stranger can have terrifying consequences. Thanks for watching, and until next time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.